Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Art of TradeStation. Today, we're going to talk about options spreads and how to trade those option spreads, how to manage option spreads using OptionStation Pro. So thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your schedules to be here and learn a little bit about OptionStation Pro. A little bit of introductions and disclosures. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education for TradeStation Securities. And I always enjoy doing these classes and helping you with the technology. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of TradeStation. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and past historical performance is no guarantee for future results. Please visit www.tradestation.com/important-information for details on these disclosures. I know that Manolo has also shared that link in the chat, so you're welcome to click on the link from the chat if you need more information. So let's go ahead started. As I said at the very beginning, the focus of this presentation is going to be on options spread. So here I'm looking at the TradeStation Desktop, and you can see that I have a chart up for Bank of America. We're going to use Bank of America as an example, not because it's doing anything in particular. It's just an example for us to build option spreads on Bank of America. So let's go ahead. Everybody knows that in order for you to access OptionStation Pro, you need to be on TradeStation. You need to have it open because you have to go to the apps menu and click on OptionStation Pro to open it. All right, let me go over here to OptionStation Pro. A couple of things that I'm going to do right here. I've already loaded Bank of America, and you can see all the quote data at the very top. Bank of America, right now it's trading at 25, let me put my glasses on, $25.45. We see that it has significant amount of stock volume, 26.4 million shares traded, and Bank of America's historical volatility is about 22.07% based on 30 days of historical volatility. So that's information on the underlying asset, and we're going to look at the options that are available for Bank of America. You can see that there's different filters up here that allow you to focus on the options that you need. For this particular example, I think 20 is a good size of strike prices. I don't have any filtering selected yet. And over here in the spread selector, where is the place where you can choose spreads, mine is set to single. We're going to switch over to different spread settings in just a moment. One thing that I'm going to do, though, is I want to remove the weekly options since they're not going to be part of my examples today. So I'm going to go to the filter dropdown right here. I have expiration types, and I'm going to uncheck the quarterlies and the weeklies and just leave the monthlies checked. I click on apply, and that simplifies my view. So anytime that you want to make your OptionStation Pro only display the information that you're using, you can go there and filter for the options that you need. I'm going to open up the December options. These are the options that are expiring in December. And there's a couple ways that you can build spreads in OptionStation Pro. I already alluded to the spread selector, very easy way for letting OptionStation Pro build the spreads for you. For example, if I click on the dropdown, wrong dropdown, click on the spread selector dropdown, and I choose vertical, for example, you can see that my OptionStation Pro automatically pairs up the strikes in the strike column. So I see the 24.25, the 25.26, and so forth. The distance between those strikes, or the width or spread between the strikes, is very close. If you want to widen the spread, all you need to do is come here to the filter dropdown and select the spread width. Right now it's set to 1. So it's designed to select strikes that are next to each other. If I want to skip a strike in between, I just set this to 2 and then click on apply. I notice that now the pairs are different. I now have the 23 and the 25. So clearly it skipped the 24. Then I have the 24 and the 26. So this skips the 25. So that spread interval allows you to skip those strikes in between and that way find the spread you need, because a lot of times maybe you're not looking for a spread that has the strike prices next to each other. So let me go back here and set this to, I'm going to leave it at 2. That's totally fine. But I wanted to show you that if I go to a different spread type, let's go here to calendar, for example. If I go to the calendar spread, it's interesting because now you see that everything was collapsed. In a calendar spread, of course, we have 2 expiration dates available. Here we have the December and November. So if we expand that, we can see that we're trading the same strike price, but from 2 expirations. In fact, if I click on any of these, let me click on the 25, for example. I'm going to click on the asking price of the 25, and that is going to build the order bar at the bottom of my OptionStation Pro. Sometimes I do that so that I can get a little bit more detail as to what legs are included in this spread. This calendar spread, as you can see, it's a combination of 2 legs. We have a long Bank of America December call with a strike price of 25, and then we are short 1 contract of the November expiration strike price 25. So we're playing with the December and the November expirations. Of course, once you come here, I mean, you can widen the expiration spread. So let's say, for example, that instead of playing the December and November, you want to play maybe the January. So here you can go to January 24 and find that spread right there. If you wanted, let me drop my order bar. There's a little button here on the order bar that allows you to hide it. I just came here to the order bar because it provides you a little bit more detail as to the components of that particular spread. Let's go ahead and drop this. Let me click here on the spread selector one more time. If I choose something like a vertical, that's the one that I was looking at just a moment ago. But if I go to something that has more legs, like a condor or like a butterfly, let's go to the condor. You can see that a condor is made up of 4 strike prices. It lines up the strike prices in the way that you would trade them. In here, you can see that I'm skipping a strike price in between. I have the 25, the 27, the 29, and the 31. If I were to select any of these spreads, let me show you something really nice. Let's say that I click on the asking price of the 25, 27, 29, 31. Of course, it pulls up the trade bar from the bottom only because I have my click to set to trade. That's another thing that I wanted to clarify here, because a lot of times, you know, when you click on the bid or the ask, the behavior is going to be different depending on what you have here on the top right corner of OptionStation Pro. Click to controls that behavior. If I go to the drop down, there's 2 behaviors, trade and analyze trade. If you set it to analyze trade, instead of popping the trade bar from the bottom, what will happen is that if I click on the asking price, it'll send me to the analysis tab. In this example, the trade bar is still visible. So I'm going to hide it by just clicking on that little button on the right. And this is the way that it would look if you click on a bid or an ask and you have that drop down set to analyze trade. It'll send you to the analysis tab for you to analyze the spread that you clicked on. In this case, you can see the vertical spread added to my simulations, and you can see a graph for it. We're going to touch on the graph briefly, but let me go ahead and go back to the option chain and show you a couple more things. I'm going to right click on this theoretical position because this is theoretical. Once you are in the analysis tab and you look right here at the bottom, you're going to find all your theoretical positions, which can be deleted from view. Because once you added to the analysis tab, it won't go away until you remove it. So I'm going to right click before I forget. I'm going to right click here and click on delete position. All right, let me go here back to options. And I was just explaining that as you click on these bid or ask prices, it's going to select the 4 legs that make up the condor. One thing that I was going to show you though is that I can go back to a single view and see the individual legs that were selected. Now, this is interesting because now you see the blue highlights are my long legs, and you can see the red highlights are my short legs. This is a call condor, but I wanted to show you this feature because, yes, you can select a spread by using the spread selector right here on the top left, and then switch the menu to single and see the individual legs that are highlighted. On this view, there's one more thing that you can do. You can adjust the legs right here on the single view. So if I wanted to move, for example, this long, I can just click and drag. I can click and drag and make some adjustments. Notice that I just widened the distance between the two short legs. That, of course, affected my trade bar because it has to reflect whatever legs are highlighted here. Now I'm not looking at sequential strike prices. Now from 23 and 25, it jumps to 29 and 31 because I widened the spread. So if you want to have or use the spread selector as a starting point so that you can select a spread and then switch it to single so that you can visualize which legs were highlighted, that's a way for you to adjust the spread if you need to. A lot of times, if you go through the drop downs here, it's a little bit cumbersome, and there's nothing better like a visual. There's nothing better like seeing the legs highlighted and you being able to drag them up and down and visualize the distance between them. Right here is really hard to do, although I can come here and select maybe a different one. Let's say that I choose the 33. Notice that it shifted my long leg higher. Higher in the strike prices, lower in the view. You can adjust the strike prices here and it'll have a direct effect on the legs that are highlighted. Let's suppose that you want to trade something different. And I'm going to remove the top two legs. I can right click and remove the leg right here from the highlighted portion. So I don't necessarily have to complicate myself to create something different. I can just right click on the leg and remove the leg. Right click on the leg and remove the leg. And you can see that once I remove the two top legs on this particular Condor, now I'm left with a vertical. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about analyzing the spreads, okay? Let's start with this vertical. I like this way. I like to do it this way rather than, setting my click to analyze. A lot of times, if I'm looking at the option chain and I click on something, and the fact that it sends me to a different tab, sometimes, it catches me by surprise. So most of the time what I do is I leave it on trade, and that way I see the trade bar pop up from the bottom, and I can still analyze my trade by clicking on analyze right here. So you don't necessarily have to place the order from the order ticket. If you click on analyze, now it'll send that exact same information over to my analysis tab, and I can make some further analysis right here on this spread. All right, let me go ahead and squeeze the prices right here at the bottom. I'm not sure if this is something but the prices that you see at the bottom of this graph are prices for the underline, in this case, Bank of America. But I have the ability of clicking and dragging to the left to squeeze the prices and see a little bit more, expansion. You can see that the maximum profit here is $9, where the maximum loss is $391. Maybe the graph is what tells me if something is sound or not, because I can measure, look at the probabilities, look where the price is, and see where it's going. When I look at the maximum profit I can make in relationship to the maximum loss, I really don't like this reward or this risk reward ratio that I'm trading. So let's go ahead and remove this strategy. I'm going to right click and delete the position. So remember that we didn't trade it. We just clicked on analyze trade and it sent us to the analyze option. Let's go back here to options and do something different. If I wanted to remove the remaining legs, I just right click and remove legs. When you have nothing highlighted, this is how the trade bar looks, but you can hide it by clicking on this little button next to the place order button. Another thing, you can hold down the control key to determine which option legs you want to add. The way that I just showed you just a moment ago was, yes, selecting the spread from the spread selector and then switching the spread selector to single so that you can see which legs were highlighted, and then click and drag those legs to modify the spread. Now you have the ability to also hold down the control key and then click, 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 and select all the legs that you want to put into your order ticket. So let's walk through an example. Let's say that I want to select the 24, so I'm long the 24, and I'm going to hold down the control key now. The control key can be held right after you select the first one. The control key is just like a plus sign. You're adding an additional leg. So I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to click on the bid price of this 26. You can already tell that the order ticket recognizes the two legs that I selected, and it identifies it as a vertical. Again, the clicking and dragging still works. I mean, all that functionality still is valid. This is just a different way for you to build this spread and send it over to the order ticket. And if you want to analyze that spread, you can click on Analyze, and it sends you right here into this graph. We already talked about it. Now you can see that the maximum profit here is 73, maximum loss is 127. So let's go back. Let me right click and delete. Let me show you what it looks like when I add a different one. So I'm going to go here to the option chain, and I'm going to hold down the control key one more time. But I'm going to add the 30. I'm going to go short the 30, and I'm going to go long the 32. So notice that now I have highlights on both the call side and the put side. And if I look at my order ticket, this is an iron condor. What happens if I click on Analyze again? Notice what happens. I'm going to click Analyze one more time. Now, the graph looks lopsided, right? The reason for that is because I didn't delete the vertical. The first time I added, where I clicked on Analyze Trade, it added the vertical. And I said that once you add the theoretical position, it'll remain here until you actually delete it. So the graph that you see here, it's a combination of the iron condor and the vertical, which is okay. I mean, you don't necessarily have to remove the vertical. Maybe you want to leave it there for later analysis, but just remember that you have check boxes here. So I can uncheck the vertical, and then I can just see, the graph for the iron condor. In this particular case, when you're looking at this iron condor, what you're looking for is for the price to move sideways. You can see this is the area of profitability. You can see that it's above this horizontal line at 0. Anything else is a negative or a loss. So we want to make sure we avoid those areas. And the way that we avoid those areas is staying within the cone. So that's the reason why I come here to the graph, because it's very telling where the profits are going to be made. And in addition to that, it also tells you the probability of Bank of America moving within your strategy. This shade of gray that you see behind my graph tells you what is the expected move of Bank of America based on historical volatility and standard deviations. This is 2 standard deviations. You can see the 2 right here, and you can adjust the standard deviations if you please. But 2 standard deviations is a 95% probability that Bank of America will be within the shade of gray. 95% probability. You can see that the whole section of profitability of this option is within the cone of probability. One thing that I forgot to mention here in the option chain is that we also have a shading of gray here. Now, the shade of gray here is a little bit different than the one we see on the analysis graph. On the analysis, it uses historical volatility. This expected move that you see here, which is shaded in gray, is based on implied volatility of the options. You can see the expected move right here in parentheses, and you can see that Bank of America, based on the implied volatility of options, is expected to move $2.40 up or down. So from within the options tab, yeah, there is a way for you to know if what you're selecting is within the probability of movement. But Analysis tab also provides you that calculation in a much clearer view. Larry's asking how many days of volatility. Is 30 days and is adjustable as well. If you want to adjust the amount of historical data that is used for the historical volatility, just come over here to the settings of OptionStation Pro, and in the Common tab, you'll find the historical volatility bars back, so you can adjust that if you need to. All right, let me go ahead and close this vertical, and I'm just going to leave it on. From here, I can change the expiration. I'm going to switch it to 1 month ahead. I'm going to go to the January 2024 so that I don't confuse them with the December 23. I'm going to trade this iron condor. I'm going to right click. Notice this is something you can do. Once you are in the analysis tab, from here, you can trade the iron condor. You don't have to go back to the option chain and trade it from there. I can right click and then select trade. It pops up the order bar. I see the information on my legs. I see the pricing information for this spread. So the mid and the natural buttons are going to add all the prices together of the 4 different legs and determine if this is a credit or a debit. In this particular case, this is a debit since it doesn't have CR in parentheses next to it. If you were to switch this iron condor and switch the buy and selling transactions and invert them, you would get a credit. If I switch this to sell, and then the inner strikes to buy and the outer one to sell, this is still an iron condor, but you can see how the price here has in parentheses the letters CR, which implies a credit. The same for the natural and the mid have the CR in parentheses. You can do that right here on the order ticket as well. Let's go back to the way we had it. This is a debit. We have the pricing. We already said that, of course, it combines all the individual prices of each leg. For this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a market order because I want to see the fill of this particular order. I'm going to place the order and say yes. Order filled. The order gets filled. In fact, if I go right click on my vertical and I trade this vertical as well, this is my December vertical, I'm going to do a market order as well. Order filled. All right. So we have our 2 spreads filled. If I go, one thing that you probably noticed is that the legs appear right here at the very top. One of the things that analysis does is that when you get filled, any legs will appear in your analysis. Like this is real positions, not theoretical. And you can combine real with theoretical so that you can see what effect any future trades may have on your profitability. And that way, you can plan accordingly. But this is what's happening right here in the analysis tab. We have the theoretical down here and we have the real legs appearing right here at the very top. Now, if I go to the manage tab, one of the things that I want to clarify here for everyone is that the options exchange, of course, receives your order and you get filled on the vertical and you get filled on the iron condor. You're not going to get filled partially. So if it finds a fill for a single leg, it won't fill you until it's able to fill you on all the legs of the spread. So that's the same for the vertical and the same for the iron condor. When the information gets back to TradeStation, we only have information on the legs that were filled. So it's tricky because TradeStation displays your legs separated. There's no information here when I go to manage about the vertical or the iron condor that I traded. I only see this. So TradeStation provided a solution to that. It's the ability for you to take those legs and rebuild your spreads. Not only build the spreads that you traded, but manage them in any way you want, which is a great feature. So here, I'm going to take my December, there's one December 32 put. I'm going to drop it here on top of the single that's right here at the very top. Notice that I'm clicking and dragging, and you can do that on the Manage tab. All right, that's a custom. Let me put the other one. Now, I have an issue here. I'm not sure what happened, but you can see that on this particular row, I have two contracts. Let me open that up, and you can see that there's -2 legs in there. I only need one to build my iron condor. I'm not sure if the problem was with my vertical. So it seems like when I didn't pay attention to the order ticket, and rather than trading the vertical, it just traded an additional single leg for this December, but it shows 2. So if I were to combine this, if I were to drag this leg and drop it on top of this, it's still a custom order. Why? Because it doesn't meet the criteria for the iron condor. The legs have to match in quantity, and you can see that this short has a 2. So what do we do to fix this? All right, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to click on leg, and I'm going to click on split. You have the ability to split your legs if you have more than one contract. If I click on split, you can see that now I show 2 rows for the same expiration, same strike, but they're separated. I asked it to be split, and I can take one of those legs and maybe drop it. Let's see, this one doesn't have anything, but I can create a new one, and the Manage tab allows you to create like custom shells where you can drop individual legs. So I can come here to the menu, not this one. If I go and right click, I can create an empty position. Notice that that's empty. And I can right click on this one and delete it. So let me go back in there. So note, sometimes when you make changes like this, it's going to collapse the view. Just go here to the left and expand the view again. What I'm going to do is take one of these legs and drop it right here inside the custom shell, the empty position. And there we go. Now my single leg here is separated from the iron condor. Now the spread identification technology is able to label this as an iron condor because it meets the criteria for the iron condor. Let me go ahead and get rid of this single leg since now it's not helping us at all. I'm going to right click from here and I'm going to say close this position. So notice that I've clicked from different tabs of OptionStation Pro and still been able to trade. I traded from the Options tab, I traded from the Analysis tab, and I can also trade from the Manage tab. So you have access to trading from all the tabs of OptionStation Pro. I'm going to go to Market, place the order, and say yes.
Order filled.
And my order gets filled. Interesting that it filled the one that was part of the iron condor, which is okay. Let me grab this leg again and drop it in here for the iron condor, and there it is. And I can right click on this custom since I don't need it anymore and delete the position. And then I have a clean view of my iron condor. Let's say, for example, that we want to establish an equity position. So we want to buy shares of Bank of America. We don't necessarily have to go to the TradeStation platform. We can do it right here from within the Manage tab. I'm going to click on the bid or ask of Bank of America, which is right there at the top. So if you're interested in trading shares of the underlying, just click on the bid and ask at the very top. Let me click on the ask, which is a buying transaction right here. Let me trade 1,000 shares of Bank of America, and I'm going to buy them at market. I place the order and I say yes.
Order filled.
It gets filled, and you can see that it adds another row here for my open positions. And this is true for any equity you trade. OptionStation Pro makes it very easy for you to have all your equity positions in one place. So let me show you. If I go over here to TradeStation, I'm going to go over to TradeStation just to demonstrate something. I'm going to go to the TradeStation platform. Let me go to the trade bar. I'm going to trade shares of Verizon. And I'm going to trade 1,000 shares of Verizon. I'm going to buy them at market so that we get filled immediately.
Order filled.
And I'm sure you heard my computer, the audible confirmation that my order got filled. But if I go back to OptionStation Pro, notice that I see my Bank of America information, but I now see a row here for Verizon. It's collapsed so that it's not distracting, but I can click on the little opener and I can see my equity position for 1,000 shares of Verizon. Now we are the owners of 1,000 shares of Verizon, and we are the owners of 1,000 shares of Bank of America. Let's suppose that we want to set a protection on my Bank of America holding, and I want to buy a put. Right now, Bank of America is trading at 25. So let's say, for example, we want to buy a put with a strike price of 25. If I go here to the options tab, I'm looking at December, so you have to think in terms of how long are you expecting to hold Bank of America. I'm okay with December, although I have different expirations The Iron Condor that I created was also December, which doesn't really matter. But I'm going to click on the asking price of the put with a strike price of 25. When I do that, I get the order ticket. I'm going to increase my quantity to 10 so that it matches the quantity of my equity position. I have 1,000 shares. So if we consider that there's 100 shares per options contract, I have to trade 10 contracts to have to be covered on the whole 1,000 shares. Let me go ahead and click on market here so we get filled immediately. I'm going to place a trade.
Order filled.
We get filled. We hear it. I'm going to go to the manage tab. And in addition to having the 1,000 shares here, now I have a single position with 10 contracts with a strike price of 22. This is a put. If I were to click on this leg and drag it over and drop it over my equity, notice what happens. Now, it combines those two into a covered married stock. And you see, you can monitor those positions together. Now, let me show you something interesting. Once you combine the legs into a spread, and you're looking at a spread right here, you can reset everything that you're seeing here. You can reset by position. If I right click on this covered married stock and I say reset position, you know, it'll divide those legs and leave you where you started off. And that allows you to do something different. You know, you're never stuck on anything here on the Manage tab. You can do pretty much any combination you need on all the legs and all the equity positions you have. For the Iron Condor, you can do the same, but let me just show you something really interesting. If you wanted to, let me close that single leg that I traded earlier. Because what I'm thinking to do is an example where you want to protect maybe not the whole 1,000 shares of Bank of America. Maybe you want to set a protective put on 500 shares of your 1,000 share position to protect half of those shares, and maybe you want to do something different with the remaining 500. But let's say, for example, we want to approach our Bank of America position that way. So let me go ahead and close that last leg that I put in. I'm going to go to the market here and place the order.
Order filled.
And I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to split my equity position. Right now it's shown as a 1,000 share position. But since I told you that in the Manage tab, you can do pretty much anything you want, yes, I can split that equity position in two. I can come here and say, not the right click on the actual here. Sometimes you're going to get confused about where to right click. And it's important that you remember that in order for you to split a position, you have to go to the detail of that position. So I'm going to click on the plus here. That gives me more information or detailed information on that equity. That's where you have to right click, because that's the menu that gives you the leg. If I had right clicked on equity up here, let me collapse it one more time. I see the equity 1,000. If I right click here, I don't get the leg option. You only get it in the detail. So I'm going to open up Bank of America. I see my long 1,000, right click, and I'm going to go to leg, and I'm going to go to split. I know this is not an options leg, but you can apply it to your equity positions as well. I'm going to split it. Notice that now I have two rows in my Manage tab, allowing me to specify how many shares I want on each one of my rows. If I choose 500 for one, you can see that the other leg automatically adjusts to the remaining shares so that it always totals 1,000. So now I show two rows of 500 each. So I can come here to the options tab and say, all right, now I'm going to buy that put, but I don't need 10 contracts. I only need 5 because I said that I'm going to buy this put for just half of my 1,000 share. I'm going to send this as a market order, place the order, say yes to the confirmation. And when I go to the Manage, I see my equity with my two individual legs. Now they're all, let's see what happens if I click on that 5 contract position and I drop it inside of one of those legs. I'm going to drag it. It won't let you. You know why it won't let you? Because those two rows of 500 each are still kind of together under the Bank of America. I may have to move them to a separate empty position. So let me right click. It doesn't matter where you right click and go to create empty position. So that opens up another row here for Bank of America. And I'm going to take one of those long 500 and drop it in there. So now we've separated those two 500. What happened here? Okay, yes, we've separated the two 500s and you still have your single. So if you take one of those 500s, I'm going to take the one that's right next to it and then click on the 5 contracts that you purchased and drop it on top of. Okay, this is going to go. Okay, drop it inside of this. Then you get your covered married stock for just 500 shares. So I know it may be a little bit too much, but just to summarize what I just did, you can split any position, whether it is equities or options. You can right click on any leg, but remember that you have to do it on the leg level, not on the main row that gives you a description of what's inside. You have to open up the leg and then right click and go to leg and click on split. That is available on stock positions, equity positions, and also on options if you want to create other positions. And after that, it's just a matter of combining legs by clicking and dragging, which becomes very simple right here in the Manage tab. And also remember that when you get filled on spreads, yes, TradeStation receives information on individual legs, but you can very quickly build and manage your spreads in any way imaginable. If you want to create a covered call in a single ticket, not the way that I did it, because the way that I did it is after the fact. You know, you have an equity position and then you added, you know, your put to it. If you want to do it from the options tab or as a new trade, let me go here to Verizon and see if I can trade something here. The way that you would build that is I would go here into your spread selector and you have an option here for covered married stock. So if you were to buy a put, for example, it automatically, you know, puts that information here as a covered married stock. Theoretically, I could also do it the way that I was doing it. So if I click on the asking price of the equities, it adds that as a buy open 500. I hold on my control key and then I click on the asking price of my put. And I change my quantity here to match. And as soon as I do that, notice that I have 600 shares, 6 contracts. It now identifies it as a covered married stock. Okay, a couple of questions here about how do you see the options price chart? The way you do that, you have to go to TradeStation to do that. And it's very simply done. I'm going to go here to my TradeStation, and I do have to turn on a yellow global link. So you have to go to the S button up here, go to the little drop down and set this to yellow global symbol link. Why a yellow global symbol link? Because my OptionStation Pro by default is set to the same color. You don't have to turn that on there because it's on by default, but it's set to a yellow global link. This allows me to click on any of the options here and see a chart. Don't click on the bid or ask, because we know that if you click there, it'll open up the order ticket, because that's what those columns are used for. But if I wanted to see a chart of the call with a strike price of 35, you know, it has a volume today of 1,000. If I click on any value except for the bid or the ask, so it can be any of the values here to the left, this sends a symbol link over to TradeStation, and I'm able to see the chart of the option. It didn't do it. Oh, I know what the problem is. I know why the link is not working. It's not working because I'm not set to single. I looked at the strikes and I thought that I was on singles, but I'm not. I'm on a covered merit stock. And what the chart cannot do is chart a spread. That is something that you cannot do. You'll see a chart on an individual call or an individual put, but you won't be able to see a chart on the spread. So if I click here and I go to the single, and again, I'm going to go back to the 33. No, it was the 35 that had the most volume. I'm going to click here. And if I go to TradeStation, then you see the symbol here on the top left corner is the option symbol, and you see the price in charting. In terms of quantity, yes, the quantity in OptionStation Pro defaults to 1. I've defaulted mine to 1. So the default is 5, I'm sorry. In order for you to change that, you do that in the TradeStation platform. You go to File, Preferences, Order Entry, and in the Options Trading, you set the quantity to 1 right here. Yeah, but default is 5, so you can change it to 1. Remember that TradeStation will always give you the ability to build any spreads you want. Not only build them in order to trade them, but once you get executed and TradeStation shows you all the individual legs you have multiple features there to split, to merge, to create empty shells, to do anything you want with those legs and build something different. From that Manage tab, it's just a matter of right-clicking on a position that you built and traded that way. But we wanted to do this class just to give you a little bit more depth on that functionality so that everyone is aware of what's available on the platform. I want to thank everyone for attending this class. Thank you for joining me today. We hope to see you in a future class, and great having you. Goodbye, everyone.